Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad that you're with us to stay curious today. Hey, we're in a big ballpark here in Washington, D.C. The Nationals are about to play. Marty and I are getting our hot dogs and popcorn ready here. Marty, we wish, don't we?
Yeah.
Marty Winkle, my co-producer. We're working on our fourth year of bringing you Stay Curious. Marty, how are you today? Thank you for pinch hitting on a recorded show yesterday.
Yeah, I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
Well, I wish we was in this ballpark, don't you? I miss going to ball games. I spent a little time in New York City and went to Yankee Stadium all the time. And you've been to ballparks, I know, Marty. But what's this all about? Sally's Night. That's Sally Ride Night. We're going to be celebrating all weekend the 40th anniversary of Sally Ride, America's first woman to go to space. But she was a lot more than that. She was a very super intelligent woman who, after her career, founded the Sally Ride Science Center in San Diego and promoted STEAM education. And unfortunately, we lost her about 12 years ago to cancer. But Sally Ride, we're going to be remembering you, and they're going to throw I believe her niece, Kate Ride, is going to toss out the ball, the first pitch at the National League game, the Nationals game Sunday there in our nation's capital. So right there in Washington, D.C., we're going to be honoring one of a hero to just not women, but men all over the world. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Is in June, we had the first woman go to space, Valentina Tereshkova, of course. And, we had three of the superpowers women go to space. Valentina, the first woman, of course, to go to space ever, and then followed 19 years later by another Russian, Svetlana. And then because we're going to launch Sally Ride, they wanted to make sure to put their foothold on that. Russia did, in a propaganda ploy, I think. Then Sally rode her first flight June 18th, 1983. She had another subsequent flight and was scheduled for a third one when the Challenger accident happened. In China's first female astronaut, Liu Yang, was launched in June in 2012. And she went back to space earlier this year for 6 months and has 195 days in space. And that Chinese lady could be a moonwalker someday. So that's what we're going to talk about today on Stay Curious. Look back at these women that are in immortality, Valentina and Sally, a little bit, and give you some maybe interesting things about their missions that you didn't know about, and celebrate 2 shuttle missions in the month of June. We had 11 beautiful shuttles launched in June. We're going to highlight 2 of them here as we kick off a Friday edition of Stay Curious. No Future Friday today. We'll pick up on that, try to do it every Friday, but some Fridays I just don't have a crystal ball, Marty, to look into the future. And my crystal ball was cloudy today, overcoming a little bit of a cold. So bear with me a little bit as we kick off Stay Curious with a happy birthday to 2 astronauts. The first one is Taylor Wang, is 83 years old. Taylor Wang is the first Chinese person born in China to go to space, but at that time he was a employee for Jet Propulsion Laboratory and was a payload specialist on the 7-day Space Shuttle Challenger mission of Space Lab in 1985 in May. So one of the early astronauts that flew to space. He just did it one time as a payload specialist. So we hope he's having a wonderful 83rd birthday. There he is in space on his one mission. In American astronaut Jeffrey, who's got the nickname of Bones Ashby. And when you got nickname Bones, that's right, you're probably an orthopedic surgeon of type, like he is a doctor of. He was born on June 16th, 1954 in Dallas, Texas, but he grew up in Evergreen, Colorado, which is southwest of Denver. I've actually been there. There is Jeff Ashby, Bones, as they called him. He was a pilot once and then a commander, pilot twice and then a commander, STS-93, which was deployed Chandra in 1999 with his commander Eileen Collins. And then STS-100 was in 99, that same year, and STS-112 was in 2002 for Jeff. He was a both hard hat International Space Station construction missions. He's a Top Gun, as they call the fighters, Navy Fighter Weapons School, graduate of that. He was 40 years old when he was picked as an astronaut, and he was going to fly in 1997, but was replaced due to a family illness, and that kept him away for 2 years. So a very experienced space traveler. Couldn't find anything about what he's doing today, but hope that he appears at our Kennedy Visitors Complex someday and tells his story. Jeff Ashby, 69 years old today. Well, our beautiful 3-decade era of our space shuttle is long gone, but not in our memories, and that's something we tout on Stay Curious, is the shuttles of every month, try to highlight few of the missions, and on our Facebook we're always celebrating these missions, and they're rolling around now into the anniversary of the 40th and the 30th and 20th and so forth, so it's fun to keep up on. 11 shuttles were launched in the month of June. That's now half over. And today we're going to only launch the fifth one of those 11 in the month, STS-51G in 1985, here in just a minute. Of the 11 shuttles, 9 of them had women aboard. John Fabian, that Marty, you saw him out at the Space Center this week. I've seen him before and didn't go out there. He was in space. Both his missions, both were in June. And the one, of course, we're going to talk about both of them today. So, let's see, that's the highest ratio of women, too. 22% of the crew, 68 to crewmen, 15 of them were women. So, of the 11 flights, 7 had 7 crew members. And how they were distributed, those 11 flights, well, they all flew, all of our 5 beautiful shuttles. Challenger just flew once, Columbia 4 times, Discovery twice, and Atlantis and Endeavour twice in the month of June. So a very ambitious month and a lot of great missions, both the first Mir docking, which is down at the bottom right, STS-71 in 1995, and the last Mir docking, STS-91 in 1998 in the upper left-hand corner, occurred in the month of June. And lots of hard hat missions there. And of course, I love the mission STS-4, the last 2-man mission by an American space plane, though the SpaceX had 2 NASA astronauts in it when on its maiden flight 3 years ago on that Demo 2 mission with Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. So, of course, STS-4 was Mattingly and Hartsfield, the last technically experimental test of the shuttle. So, wonderful month of June in there. And Marty, let's look at 51G a little bit up close. As 51G, there we go. I thought I had another picture of Ashby there. There's Ashby being suited up for, looks like STS-122 there. This is the crew of STS-51G that included the first Sultan to go to space, Sultan Salman Al-Saad, and we have a Sultan orbiting the Earth right now. Brandon Steen was the commander. NASA does a lot of picture days, all right, and one of them they do is wear your military uniform. Don't know if it's on the same day as you wear the pumpkin suit and your family's there. But that's John Fabian on the right in his Army garb there. And the rest of them are in their military or civilian, which of course you have the civilian Shannon Lucid there, and then the Sultan. They deployed 3 communication satellites. But before we look at that, I like sharing a little bit about the artwork of these wonderful, that's an Air Force outfit. Okay, thank you, Marty. That's an Air Force blue outfit there. Okay, and not the army green or gray. Thanks, Marty. I knew. Thanks for correcting me. Well, this emblem, there's a lot of, sometimes there's some little what they call Easter eggs in there, little hidden things. Well, this insignia illustrates the advances in aviation technology in the United States within a relatively short span of the 20th century. Aha, that's why we have the Wright Flyer there. Okay, underneath the shuttle. And that's something I always don't catch right away, Marty, is looking at that. The surnames of the crew members of Discovery's mission appear near the center edge of the circular design. Al Saad is flying as part of a reimbursable agreement with the Arab Satellite Communications Company, covering the launch of Arabsat 13 communications satellite. And Baudry represented France, the France Space Agency. Okay, so that's why they are kind of tagged there on the bottom. And the eagle, that's America through and through. So always the commander and the pilot are together, usually up at the top, Bridenstine and Crichton there. So that's a little bit of insight there with the Wright Flyer shadowing the shuttle. One of the more beautiful launch photos that you see quite a lot of was taken on June 17th, 1985 at the launch of Discovery. Here, Discovery, that had been, I've consulted the shuttle scroll here real quick. That would have been Discovery's fifth flight, as I look it up on my shuttle scroll here, right by my desk here in our Stay Curious studios. And let's look at here. There's the crew up in space. Love showing them in that. I believe that was Shannon Luce's first flight. And they deployed what the space truck was designed to do, was get rid of satellites in low Earth orbit. And that little engine on the bottom is called the PAM, or the Payload Assist Motor. That was a solid rocket motor that would take it up to geosynchronous orbit or wherever it needed to be. And that's why the Sultan was on board, was to supervise the launch of a big satellite for Arab communications in the Middle East. I love these beautiful pictures, though, Marty. So, well, let's get into the first women of space. And Valentina Tereshkova was launched on this date in 1963. And the world was I don't think they were shocked or stunned, but it was a definite propaganda ploy by the communist country of the United Socialist States, their republic there. And for 19 years, America didn't put anyone in space until Russia put the second woman up in space, Svetlana, and then she went up a second time and did a spacewalk to edge out Kathy Sullivan being the first American woman to do a spacewalk. So Russia, very fueled back in those days of trying to show off that their society was superior to the freedom of America. But nonetheless, as we've told you before, she was chosen as a cosmonaut because she was a great paratrooper, as was this guy, Pavlov Belyaev, all right, in Valery Bykovsky. Valery Bykovsky was launched 2 days before Valentina was in Vostok 5. And when they launched Vostok 6, of course, the communist country was just telling us what we wanted to hear, what they wanted us to know. So we were under the illusion that they had two spacecraft up there that might dock with each other, and one had a woman in it, and she was up there 3 days, and he was up there 3 more days, and we didn't know what was going on. Were they going to rendezvous and dock? Well, they passed by about 3 miles of each other and did communicate by radio, and one of them says they saw in the distance a star that was moving that could have been their spacecraft 3 miles away. That's all it would be. But they weren't in the same orbit. They had no rendezvous techniques, and so they were in space at the same time in 2 different spacecraft in 1963, and that was quite stunning all right, in the infant days of outer space and putting humans up there. She would have been about the 10th human to go to space. This is before our Gemini program, all right, which was in 1995, 65 and 66. So we were just ending our Mercury program, and when Valentina ended her 3 days in space, she had spent more time in space than all of the 6 Mercury astronauts combined, because Gordon Cooper only stayed up in space for about, in May 63, for just a day and a half. This is the configuration in the very cramped Vostok spacecraft. That is an ejection seat that the cosmonauts sitting in their orange spacesuit, much like a MiG trainer ejecting out when the hatch opens up. And that was how all of the 6 Vostok cosmonauts landed, unbeknownst to America, for decades. And here's an illustration of that landing, where after reentry, the fiery reentry, the spacecraft stabilizes with the parachute, and then the ejection sheet shoots them out, and they land on their own 2 feet. And to the surprise, I might say, of the Kazakhstan farmers, or wherever they landed in rural Russia. Here is her spacecraft that, of course, is in a Moscow museum. Very, very cramped, okay, in there. Let's talk a little bit about Valery Bakovsky, okay. Valery Bakovsky really got, no one remembered him, that he was even in space when Valentina came back. However, he landed first and she landed like 3 hours later. So they both landed on the same day. This was his first flight. Marty, Bykovsky's a pioneer, much in the vein of Jim Lovell's, how I like to think of him. He had 2 more very successful space flights in a Soyuz spacecraft, and went to the Salyut space station, all right, and stayed there for a couple weeks. So he got the taste of infant, first time in space in a primitive spacecraft, and then he lived a few days on their Salyut 6 space station. And then when he retired, he got into art, and he became a great artist, and particularly a photographer, and got into some painting. There he is in later life, lived to be 84. He died in 2019, just 3 years ago. So he's renowned in Russian galleries and museums for his work that predominantly has figurative design in it, using people's figures and stuff in things. So a little side note on a guy that was shadowing the famous 60 years ago, the first woman to go to space. And of course, that's celebrated all over. Here, the 2 of them are together after their flight on a world tour of this, which reinforced in the Soviet mind that these 2 actually were a mission together, but they were 2 very separate missions. Still, it was for mission. This is the second time Russia did this, by the way. They I think Vostok 3 and 4 were together for a period of time. But to have 2 human beings orbiting Earth and all of the flight control setup and communications that you need had to be a little bit nerve-wracking 60 years ago. There they are with Premier Nikita Khrushchev of Russia, who was ousted when he sent 3 people up in space. He used the space program for his propaganda that communism was the way the world should be. So there's both of them there. They certainly lived a luxury lifestyle, being that important. And Marty, take off that top there, would you please? I forget. Thank you, sir. Vostok 5 and 6 in June 1963. Something that we forget about in the 21st century is the popularity that stamps once had. Stamp hobby used to be a real teenagers used to be involved in collecting stamps. Like myself, I like collecting space stamps, and around the world events, from space to athletes to inventions and were all celebrated with stamps. And on first day covers, that's a big thing about the space shuttle. Stamps were stamped on the date and landing of shuttles and other, of course, Apollo and Gemini and Mercury missions. So I thought I'd throw in there a few stamps of this mission, these two missions that showed around the world, Bulgaria and Russian stamps there. So I looked up American stamp, Marty, is 63 cents, just FYI. All right, so that 8-cent stamp by Paul Cowley of the Moonwalker on Apollo 11 is now 63 cents to mail a stamp some 50 years later. Here is the wedding, shotgun wedding that Nikita Khrushchev actually made Valentina Tereshkova get married to another cosmonaut that went to space before them. That was Nikolaev. Yes, Nikolaev, Andrei and Nikolaev. They were married technically for 20 years before they divorced in 1982. They had a child that was professed to be the first star child, because they had been to space. That star child grew up to be a doctor in Russia. And there is Valentina comparing medals with Yuri Gagarin, the two most famous space travelers ever in Russia. Of course, Yuri Gagarin was lost in a 1969 MiG fighter jet crash during training for a possible moon landing. I think that was 68 when he was killed. But there, look at the medals that they put on you there. And Yuri, of course, has got a lot more than she does, but just kind of a fun-looking picture there of the two important people of the space program in Russia. So, well, as we said, all over America, I'm excited that we're celebrating Sally Ride's historic flight 40 years ago. I'm even more excited, Marty, to see Sally all over the place, because that's my mama's name, Sally McKinley Marquette, Sally Jane McKinley Marquette. And though Mom probably won't be watching this program, she's doing well. And I texted her this today and saying, we're going to be celebrating you all over the country, Mom. So Sally's night. And here is the beautiful Sally Ride. Of course, at the time, the youngest American to go to space at age 32. That's been eclipsed by the young lady Arsenault, who went on the St. Jude's flight of the billionaire Isaacman. And he's going to be flying here. We'll be talking about him pretty soon, because he wants to fly in June and do a spacewalk, Marty. So Sally Ride's mission, of course, was the first one was STS-7, and she did the payload control up there, the remote arm, RMSS, remote manipulator arm system there, and that's why you see a 7. And let's read about the in the arm up there. The Orbiter Challenger, making its second flight into space, is featured in the art for the insignia. The remote manipulator arm is positioned such that the number 7 is formed. Likewise, 7 stars are visible against the black sky. Within the sun's center, on the right there, are representations for the 5 crew members, including the first time in NASA's space program a woman, Sally K. Ride, mission specialist. The crew members' surnames are listed along the outside edge of the sphere that, of course, encompasses the Earth and the atmosphere for the research being done on those payloads. So aboard there was Rick Houck. Of course, Bob Crippen was the commander. Cripp was, again, he flew Sally Ride, was her commander on her second flight, which was about a year later. And like I said, she was scheduled for a third flight. We had Fred Houck on there, and mission specialist, as we said, John Fabian, making his first trip to space, and then the 51G is when he made his second trip in the month of June. And Norm Thagard was part of this. And I've heard Norm Thagard talk, and John Fabian. Marty, you heard Fabian today. He was talking about the ride mission, I believe you said. Do you have any comments about that, what he said? To put you on the spot there?
Other than how great of a person she was as far as an astronaut and an individual.
Absolutely. And what class she had, that when she was asked to go to a lot of personal appearances, like at the White House, she said, "I'm not coming by myself, I'm bringing my crew." And Thagard was particularly impressed with that. He said it was his favorite of mission because they went all over the country and some spots in the world supporting her. And of course, she had to go out there. She probably didn't want to do all that publicity, but she did, because she's a team player for NASA, of course, and going out there. But a very humble person. Here is a statue that is erected. We showed that the other day, Marty, and look where that's at. I hope to see that with my own eyes. At the Cradle of Aviation Museum on Long Island, Bethpage. And they have this beautiful statue to Sally Ride and the women there that when it was unveiled last year, okay, and they call that the Bachelor Equity Center there, or I'm not sure what the name of the, could be Bachelor, could be something else there, but the Cradle of Aviation is a premier space museum that I've not been in. And Marty, have you?
No, but I hope to get up there pretty soon, sometime this year.
All right. Well, let me jump in your trunk when you do that, if you don't go up there on a personal trip. So, Sally Ride Day, okay? It's celebrating her. There is the in our nation's capital, the Nationals is the baseball team name. Of course, we're so proud that we have Sally Ride's handprints in our museum here. Hope O.S. Walker gets to come in and put their hands on it there. I know Chris Calley has sized up his hands on there. Oh, Marty, I lost I flipped out there here. And I met a person, Marty, I'm going to have to dig this out there. As you're looking at Sally Ride's hands there, over 30 handprints were harvested by Charlie Mars, most of them Apollo and era workers, and it's quite a sight out there at Spaceview Park. And we have some of them here in the museum. Chalid Zan's watching. He's wanting me to beam him up, so there, I'm beaming you up, Chalid. Doug Forrest has got that number 2 pencil chewing on it there as he's trying to sketch out another work of art there. He is a wonderful pencil artist in Los Angeles. Gary Gerald. Hey, Gary, did you get the mud off your shoes up there? He just came in from his tractor there in Collins, Georgia, a peanut farmer up there. And I know he'll probably bring us some peanuts back when he comes to our Space Museum. I know you'll be down here soon, Gary Gerald. Steve Hammer's watching. Tom Usiak. Hey, Tom. Dave Stangy's watching up in Michigan. No, he's in Brandon, Florida. Okay. I think he's coming by and seeing us next week. I know where Brandon, Florida is. Carlton Bailey, stay inside, my friend. It's too hot here to get out. Christopher Parsons is watching. Hi, Cynthia Rossi. And who'd you have on here? Tom Celentano. Bill Whiting is watching. And Dave Stangy and Daniel DeYoung are the crew. We just can't help you enough, Marty. These guys and girls have become personal friends of ours. We're so blessed that they want to watch and hear what we have to say every day. And we want you to tell your friends that please watch us on YouTube, because it helps our museum financially. And we are going to ramp that up a little bit, as everybody's on YouTube wanting to make money. And our nonprofit needs it, quite frankly, to keep our ship afloat here. So let's see. Some of the celebrations going on for Sally Ride around the country include, just had that in my hand and I shuffled it the wrong way. What did I do with that? Hold on a second there, folks. I do know that they are going to dedicate July 4th a Sally Ride statue at the President Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Los Angeles, which is not too far from where Sally was born and raised in there. And oh my gosh, I lost all my notes on the, oh, here it is. What's going on? A full calendar of events has been at the Kennedy Space Center, where they had today a panel discussion with Kathy Thornton. They had Miss Weish from Johnson Space Center. She's over the Space Center there. I did not get out there to see that. This being the 60th year of the first woman in space and the 40th for Sally Ride, the Air and Space Museum in Cleveland, Ohio is having a big day going on right now on their lakefront up there in Lake Erie. And the Museum of Flight in Seattle tomorrow will host a Sally Speaks, a 20-minute TED Talk style lecture from innovative scientists. So, and once again, Sunday, the first pitch at the Nationals ball game is going to be thrown out by Sally Ride's niece, Kate Ride. So I hope they broadcast that on TV. That'd be fun to watch. So impressed with what I hear and about Sally Ride. She was a very, very petite lady with a lot of big ideas. Her passion was kids and leaving a STEAM legacy of kids. She co-wrote 6 or 7 children's books about space that you can Google and find those on there. But she's, a lot of people say a lot of famous things, Marty, but sometimes some of the simplest things stick with you. And how about this saying from Sally Ride to end our program today? You can't be what you can't see. And that is why Sally Ride is the outstanding figure that she is, an inspiration to not just women everywhere, but men too. So with that, hope that you go out and get in some of your Sally Ride celebrations out there today. And I certainly appreciate everybody participating in Stay Curious. We've got some interviews lined up next week, including, I think we're going to get Thursday. I know we're going to have Terry White in here to talk about the shuttle garage with a special guest with Terry. And we're efforting 100-year-old O.C. Brown. And I know O.C. Brown. Marty, you do too. He turned 100 years old. He is a space worker at Cape Canaveral from the 50s. And I've been in contact with him today to see if we can get him in here to tell some tales to help you all stay curious. So until then, thank you all for participating and supporting our wonderful museum. I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you in Titusville in our museum to bridge the space between us. Let's play ball!